The Inside EVs podcast is brought to you this week with the help of Electrify America. And with their help, you can drive your EV from coast to coast. With more than 650 charging stations nationwide and new locations opening every week, Electrify America is bringing EV drivers the freedom that they need. Maybe you're planning a weekend getaway, off to see friends or relatives, or just going about your day-to-day life. You can rely on Electrify America's ultra-fast chargers to get you back on the road, and fast. So, here's the question. Where will you go on Electrify America? Let us know, because we'd love to hear about your road trips. And you can learn more at electrifyamerica.com. And the Inside EVs podcast this week also brought to you with Holley Performance Company. This weekend, the 13th and 14th of November, is inviting all EVs to the inaugural High Voltage Experience. They're doing it at the Sonoma Raceway in California. It's going to be the playground for EV owners, for drivers and enthusiasts alike, offering multiple high-performance driving events, including autocross, road course, drag racing, and a unique 3S challenge. You can get all the event details you need at holleyhighvoltage.com. That's HOLLEY highvoltage.com, and we'll see you there.
Hello, and welcome to the Inside EVs podcast for November the 12th, 2021. This is episode number 84. Our top stories today: the Subaru Solterra debuts, Rivian IPO is a $100 billion success, the Kia EV9 Concept is teased. I'm Dominic Yoni, Inside EVs forum moderator and Inside EVs editor. Joining us today is the cultured polymath, Tom Moloughney, Inside EVs editor and host of the YouTube channel State of Charge. We also have the meritorious Mr. Martin Lee from the EV News Daily podcast, which, of course, is available on all the best podcast platforms. And, of course, Kyle Connor joins us from the majestic halls of the Out of Sticks Studios van in the middle of Wyoming. He also puts together wild and woolly, wicked good videos for the Inside EVs YouTube channel. Okay, so before we get going, I'd like to ask that you please subscribe to the show. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that thumbs up button and ring that bell icon for notifications. If you're watching us on Twitch, you can also ring that bell icon for notifications. All right, so with that out of the way, welcome everybody. Happy Friday.
Oh, sorry. Happy Friday. Sorry. Happy Friday.
Everyone's muted. All right. So let's kick it off. We've been driving this week, and we've been driving a bunch of stuff. At least one of us has, for sure. So let's see. Want to start with you, Kyle?
Well, I want to hear about Tom's Taycan's range test. And
yeah.
I want to talk about one thing about the Taycan that Tom has. Everyone loves the color on Tom's Taycan that he has, and it looks amazing next to the green. But I don't think I like the color. What do you think, Tom?
So you just said everyone likes the color, and you don't like it. You're not included in everyone?
Everyone I've shown the pictures to and asked and seen on your social media, everyone's like, that's the best color ever. You ask Calvin, that's the best color ever. And then I'm like, I just don't think it's that great. What's your opinion?
So I'm just messing with you, of course. So yeah, universally, I tell you, and Kyle, you know this, I have this local coffee shop that I hang out in the morning. There's a bunch of guys that we all go there. And in the past, I had I forget the name of the color. It's that light blue Taycan.
Blue, right?
Yeah. And like all of the guys were like, that's a great car, but man, it doesn't look good in that color. And I like that color. But I tell you, when I pulled up with this 2 days ago, all of them were just swooning over it. They were like, now that's the color. So yeah, everybody likes this color except for you. I'm going to go in the camp that I do like it. I don't think it's like far and away the greatest color, because I've seen Taycans in other colors that really pop. And I actually, as I mentioned on the show a few weeks ago, I was at the factory where they were coming down the line in all the different colors. So I got to see like the whole rainbow of Taycans and you know, one after the other, and they all looked good lined up like that. But yeah, I think it's cherry metallic is what it's called with Porsche's exact terminology. And I think it looks awesome. And you're the first person now that I've had it for a few days, that has kind of been like, no, I don't. This isn't the best color Porsche makes.
We're paid to disagree, so I just started it off fulfilling our contract right there. It's really not that bad. It's pretty nice.
Yeah, no, it really is nice, and like you said, in particular with fall colors now, with all the orange and yellow leaves behind it, it really pops, and super good. So if you want, since we're on the subject, I'll talk a little bit about what I did with it. I just got it a couple days ago. And I've done multiple DC fast charging tests, 0 to 100. I actually did 3 of them already in 4 days. So that's how much I've driven it. And the reason why I keep doing over and over is because it's like the charging curve has been bonkers on this car. I don't know if it's the car. I'm trying to get like a consistent charging. And I've been on Electrify America Network, so I'm leaning towards thinking it's the charging stations and not the car. Because it's just like yesterday, for instance, I finished I did the highway range test we'll talk about in a minute. So the thing's completely down drained below zero. I plug into a 350 kilowatt station, one that's been reliable for me in the past that I've charged other Taycans and other EVs at. And immediately, boom, 247 kilowatts, jumps up to like 259, 260, 262. And get this, 3 minutes in, it's at 262. It goes to 131.
What?
What brand of charger was it?
Yeah, Signet.
Yeah,
I know you were going to ask that. Yeah.
Yep.
And the problem is, around me, they're all freaking Signets. So I might drive it tomorrow morning out to Pennsylvania. I have to find out what brand a station they have out there because I want to get it on a different 350 kilowatt Signet unit. Now, the rest of the stations around me that are 350, and there aren't a lot of them. Most of the Electrify America sites top out at 150. At many of the sites around me, they're all Signet units. So I want to get a different unit because I've heard this from multiple people in Porsche and customers that, yeah, sometimes the Signet units are wonky with the Taycan. And I'm just trying to get a consistent. So I have these charts already plotted out, and it looks like a game of Twister. It's like it's all over the place, and that's kind of useless. But I'm going to report on it anyway, and it's frustrating because you buy this car and all you just want consistency. Even if the charging curve wasn't great, you want to know what to expect. And every time I'm plugging in, I'm getting something completely different. And well, not completely different. The car's always finishing up at about an hour and a half from
That's
0
crazy,
to 100
because it should be like 48 to 52 minutes.
It took me 47 minutes yesterday to get it to 80%.
Whoa,
to get to 80%.
Not right.
Yeah, I know. So
which one is it? Is it 4S?
Go ahead, Dominic.
I don't have the box checked that the body, they have Porsche has the
that's
new
fine.
battery
That's,
saving.
Battery saving 0 to full in 53 minutes, I think.
Yeah, well, I don't have that checked. I'm doing everything right. It's in Performance Plus driving mode. That shouldn't make that much of a difference. But
but do you have Sport Chrono on that car?
What's that?
You have the little knob on the wheel to go to Sport Plus?
Sport, and it's in Sport Plus.
Yeah.
I have it in Sport Plus. It wasn't. I had just finished the 70 mile an hour range test. I used the destination as navigation in navigation. So, but I don't know, when it gets below a certain percentage, I don't think it continues to pre-warm. Right when it gets below 10% or something, I think that it probably shuts off preconditioning. But the
idea is at that point, I think your pack voltage is low enough where you have higher current, so heat loss should be higher, so it should be able to keep the system warm.
And it wasn't a problem because it immediately bang 247, then 260.
Then you're
so
good.
Temperature wasn't the problem, and it was a nice cool day and with a breeze. So you would think that the cabinets wouldn't be overheating or having any problem with that. So I don't know. It was cloudy, so there was no direct sunlight, and I'm just getting these wonky results. Anyway, we'll talk about that when I do. I'm going to do a full video kind of complaining about this soon. But let's talk about the range test. So we went. Kyle did the range test. Now, this was a rear-wheel drive Performance Plus battery pack. We've range tested like every Taycan by now. Cross Turismo, 4Ss, turbos. And Kyle did the same car, except he had slightly different wheels, right, Kyle? I have the 20-inch Turbo S Aero wheels.
Yeah, I had the base arrows.
Yeah, so yours actually should have been a little bit better. And Kyle finished up with...
pretty heavily. Yeah,
and mine wasn't. Mine was fresh. It was 1,600 miles.
Yeah.
So Kyle did it and finished up with 293 miles, and
That's good.
I got 297 yesterday. So and actually, if Kyle was driving mine, he might have hit 300 because I did like 297.5, and I drove it like a mile beyond zero. And I watched Kyle's video before this. Well, listen, I see him. Kyle wants to drive it till it won't go any further. But he has a team to push it to the damn station. I'm stuck on the New Jersey Turnpike. And but anyway, I watched Kyle's 70-mile-an-hour test for a reason.
Welcome back to another video here on.
I wanted to see how far he went after the battery hit zero, because then it would give me a little bit of. I know car to car it's different, and he only went 2 miles after the car went zero. It went to the battery state of charge went to zero at about 291, and he ended up with 293. So I'm like, okay. I know every car is different, but I'm saying I can't push it beyond a mile or two because, like I said, I'm on the turnpike. I'm not on back roads, and I'm not, getting the thing towed.
Zero is zero.
Yeah, so I stopped at 293.4. I had driven about a mile and a half beyond zero, and the car was still responsive, but you could tell it was really starting to turtle. It would still maintain, probably 50, 60 miles an hour, but it wasn't not 70, and it wasn't crawling along. In any event, 297.4, we might have been able to push it to 300, but that's still an awesome result. I mean, the car is, it's a fantastic car, and this car has the combined EPA range rating is 225. The highway range rating is 240. The Taycan is like one of the only EVs that the highway EPA range rating is higher than its combined EPA range rating. Usually, the cars have a higher city. Electric vehicles have a higher city because they're more efficient at slower speeds. Taycan's more efficient at higher speeds. It's just dialed in for that. And
that car loves 70 miles an hour.
What a fantastic car to drive up, and even like a monotonous up and down the turnpike, turning around, just the road to nowhere is still so enjoyable. The car is just what a fantastic car to drive. It's my favorite car to drive, the Taycan. It really is.
Yeah, I've only spent
297.
What was it, 297? Sorry.
297
miles.
was the final.
Right.
297 miles. We're still working on DC fast charging. I want to figure out what's going on here, but it's really disappointing that you just can't go and plug in and get a consistent result. That it's like a crapshoot. If you're on a road trip, you don't know what to expect, and that's it's why you talk to so many people that own Teslas and you ask them about why did you get a Tesla? Oh, it's the charging network, and it's they make great cars, Tesla. Don't get me wrong, but there are other really good electric cars too, but they don't have that network, and maybe soon they will, but with access.
Well, that's the problem with cars right now, is the charging networks. If we were to my dad made a video on Out of Spec Reviews this week reviewing his ID4 all-wheel drive, and he made a really good point about how if all we do with this new infrastructure bill, with building out charging stations, is replicate what we have today, it would be a total disaster. And it really is a total disaster. The fact that you can't roll up, get consistent charging at Electrify America in a Taycan, vertically integrated into Volkswagen Group, totally unacceptable in my opinion. It's been this way since the car launched. It's been this way. And it's not the Taycan's fault. It's just things, and confirmed to me by EA engineers too, things get really buggy above 150 kilowatts with all their chargers. They just hadn't had enough testing when they put them in, I think.
So basically, if this legislation goes through, what we need is a charge czar, sort of like someone who knows what they're doing, who can maybe implement this big charging
we should hire
network.
Tom.
So the funny thing is, guys, back when Dieselgate scandal first came out, I was actually writing for Inside EVs and also for Green Car Reports. And when Volkswagen first got slapped with the Dieselgate, like when it came out and they admitted, yeah, we've been cheating, I wrote an article for Green Car Reports that said their punishment should be to force them to build out a nationwide network of high-speed DC fast chargers. I am the first person to say that. And then, or it was at the time. And then a couple of months later, we see that this is as the punishment, they have to build this thing out. And I wrote a follow-up article saying, but they can't be allowed to administer it themselves and manage it. Like, there has to be an independent council appointed of electric vehicle, like people that know about this stuff, and that can take, like, if people are complaining. And it really was that fact. And I wasn't be clairvoyant or anything. I was looking at what happened at the Ecotality Blink program, which was a disaster. And all they did was build this crap, put it in the ground, and then they didn't support it. The chargers were broken. People were pulling up. And I was saying, oh my God, this could happen again. We could have a $2 billion catastrophe. And I actually took some heat from that from people in the industry saying, well, who are you to say that, they need, oversight, and the DEP is going to be their the EPA is going to be their oversight. And in California, CARB's going to be their oversight. But the oversight is limited in its scope, like, to what they want to, like, I don't see the EPA or CARB coming down on Electrify America if the things don't work. They're more like saying, oh, you have to, CARB is more interested in saying these have to be placed in underserved communities. We have to have support for all standards, things like that. They're not really, like, I would love to have some sort of a council that would have oversaw problems and said, hey, you have to publish the uptime of the network. That should be part of it, and things like that. But listen, we work with the guys over at Electrify America. They are trying to improve things. I listen. We kind of have to ride this out now. They're who we have, so we have to keep the pressure on them. But we also have to understand that it is a Herculean task what they've been have to do in a short period of time under these constraints. They basically invented this hardware. It didn't exist, 350 kilowatt DC fast chargers, before they started. But now we're a few years into this. Okay, it's time to the bugs got to get worked out and all this stuff, and do that. So I just think it's unfortunate that there doesn't seem to be a mechanism to ensure that everything works. What if it gets worse? And I know if you talk to them, they'll say, well, listen, we're a private company now. Like, we want to do well. We want to make money. But is there going to be some sort of a guarantee that there'll be a certain percent of uptime and things like, well, I mean, even the uptime doesn't tell the whole story, because the chargers I used, they were up and they worked. So that those will go as successful charging sessions. But for me, they weren't successful. So anyway, end rant. I don't want to continue going down this road. I've been pretty. I think I've been pretty easy on Electrify America so far, and kind of given them the benefit of the doubt more times than not. But as time goes on, we have to start seeing improvement over what we have now. It has to happen.
So to your point, Tom, I got a note yesterday, and it's not just Electrify America. It's so I got this note, slipped into a friend of mine slipped into my DMs here with a message asking if Inside EVs would be interested in a story about the CPE 250s, and saying that their chargers are labeled as 125 kilowatts, and they can't really go above 80 kilowatts for 400 volt cars. So I had to Google what 200 amp. I had to Google what CPE 250s were, because I didn't know. So is ChargePoint Express 250? It's like the pedestal that ChargePoint uses. It's a 125 paired max output is 125 kilowatts, but cars can't get that on them. Apparently, the Taycan can get a little bit better because it's got higher voltage, but everybody else, what do you get out of it, Kyle?
Yeah, well, I use CPE 250s all the time at this. Let me just fix the sun here. I use CPE 250s all the time at this fueling station where I do my range tests. And the way that it's arranged, and Colorado's putting them in, and everyone's putting them in, are it's one cabinet, one station. Usually, I mean, you can configure them in different power levels. Is 62.5 kilowatts, but you can configure two power modules to feed 2 chargers, but if you have just one car there, they can both feed 1 charger, if that makes sense. So if you have 2 CPE 250s, it's 125 kilowatt strung, and then it halves if 2 cars plug in. It's not for each unit, it's 2 posts. And from what I've seen is an average of 80 kilowatt peak on 400 volt cars. Mustang Mach-E was like 73 kilowatts because it's 350 volt pack. Audi e-tron was up there because that's a 400 volt dead pack. So it kind of depends on the car. And then Taycan, in theory, the charger should be able to match its 800 volt battery pack and then deliver the 125 kilowatts. But I don't know if it was a signaling issue because I'm pretty sure it was using the onboard booster in the Taycan that I had. The 100 and mine was optioned with the 150 kilowatt, 400 volt DC booster because it was only doing 91 kilowatts. So it's like that doesn't even work with the Taycan. And to me, these chargers are reliable, beautiful, nicely installed. However, they just suck at doing their job, which is charging. Give us the power.
Right. Yeah, it's the same. It's the same over here, by the way. So our network, our national network, which was bought earlier this year, thankfully, because there were some real issues, and replaced with all new hardware. And it's great because it's signposted 125 kilowatt charging. It's got 2 CCS leads on each unit, but number one, they're the ABB units that need a firmware update to enable that dual head, and they haven't done that yet. So again, it's not the charging company's fault because they didn't invent the hardware, they bought it off ABB, and so they're waiting for their engineers. Again, I'm not saying I've done anything wrong, but they're waiting for that over the air, and it will be an over the air update, and it will happen. It'll be fine. But so there's 2 chargers at most locations, 4 spaces, but there's only 2 cars at the moment because you can only plug 1 car into each. So that is a big problem. Again, reliant on the hardware manufacturer, and also exactly what Kyle says, like some of those sites which the new hardware has gone into, sites that were built 10 years ago, they've got 150 amp connection, 200 amp connection. So again, like I pull up, so the MG ZS EV runs at a pretty high voltage, like 420, 430 volts, so I'm quite lucky, but a Tesla will run at 350 volts, and so you're going to get some slow charge speeds. And I saw on their Twitter recently, a Tesla friend I know was tweeting at GridServe saying, is it my car or is it your charger? I'm charging at 70 kilowatts. And the social media person had replied back and said, oh, we'll look into it, send us a DM. And I just replied saying, well, don't bother. Like, the site you're on is 200 amps. So, you can look into it if you want, but you're never going to get those. So, but people shouldn't have to know this. Like, I don't mind knowing it. I quite like knowing it because it's a bit nerdy and geeky. But people shouldn't need to know this. It should, if it says 125 on the front, right, and your car can charge at that, it should charge at that in the minds of most people. And I kind of agree with that, by the way.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it has to do with, like you say in the UK, it has to do what it says on the tin, right? Well,
yeah, like that's the speed it should charge at. So, and people are plugging in, it's not charging at that speed, and they're not understanding it. And you try to say to them, well, this one's got a 150 amp grid connection, and they're like, what are you talking about? Like what are you talking about? So it should not be this difficult. Okay. But I think it's going to be for the foreseeable. Look, another one. So ABB just launched their Terra 360 charger. Like they pinned it as the world's fastest charging station. And like, I would love to know. I'd love to have them on the podcast. I'd love to know, did your engineers sit down with all of the major OEMs and talk about how you're building your hardware? Or are you part of a group that you rely on, like a Charin? Are you part of a trade group that you rely on that share of information? Or do you not talk to them until you've built the hardware? And then you sell that to the charging networks, and then somebody builds a car over here, and then you start to test it all, and then you're working your bugs out backwards. Like, there might be a great dialogue between the car companies, the engineers, and the charging makers. Or there might not be, but I don't know. You hope so, but you begin to doubt it when there are so many issues in charging.
Right.
Yeah. And another thing to point out about ChargePoint, the how they name their stations, like this, the CPEU or the CP 250. That's not the power that they deliver. ChargePoint names their products based on the miles that they say it can add in an hour.
I didn't know that.
So I have on my property that Kyle used. It's called the CPE 100. And because they say it can add about 100 miles of range per hour, it's a 24 kilowatt DC fast charger. So these are the CPE 250s. So at their max, charging, they can add about 250 miles of range per hour. Hypothetically.
Right. Tom, you're nerd EV number 1, apparently, according to our viewer, Doc2 on our YouTube chat.
Take it as a compliment.
Yeah, I would. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, it's a brave new world, but this really does need to be figured out. And I guess, it won't get figured out unless people make noise. And I don't know what it takes to, get people know that this is going on. This is an issue. And they've got to do a better job of signaling, When the charger says whatever it's supposed to put out, you got to be able to get that. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to turn people off. Kyle and I spend a lot of time at Electrify America sites and other networks, and we can tell you how often the other people that are there are just so frustrated. Like, people will pull up and they can't get their car to start charging or whatever. And like, I remember a few weeks ago, I was doing a charging recording, and it's like, guy pulls up in an Audi e-tron and he plugs in. He's only at like 20% state of charge, and it's pulling like 60 kilowatts. And he's just sitting there, and I couldn't help but be nosy. I walked over and I'm like, this should be charging a lot faster than that. And he's like, yeah, it kind of seemed like it was slow. What do you think I should do? I said, unplug and go plug into that one next to it. And he's like, really? I said, yeah, do that. And he unplugs, he pulls over, boom, 150 kilowatts. And he's like, oh, wow, thanks a lot. It's like, why, why did it do that? Yeah. You should know what to expect, is what I'm saying. We need to, like, when we go to the Tesla superchargers, we know exactly what to expect. I know exactly how long I have to stay to get to the state of charge that I need. And you don't have to do math. You just look at it and you're like, okay, I'm at 20%. Yeah, sure, I'll be at 80% in 18, 20 minutes. Great. Walk inside, you come out, it's 80%, you unplug and you leave. You just don't know. It's with all the other networks, not just Electrify America, it's a crapshoot. It's, will it work? Will it work at the speed that it's supposed to work at? Will it shut off in the middle of my session when I'm inside the mall using the restroom or something? And all those are just wild cards. That just doesn't happen with Teslas.
We posted an article this week of a Porsche Taycan arriving at one of the superchargers in the Netherlands with a pretty low state of charge, I think it was. And again, the Tesla app says,
Felix, right?
Yeah.
Nice guy. I like his videos.
So the Tesla supercharger should charge third-party cars at 150. Because that's what the app says. And yet he plugged in, it was 128, went up to 131, then went down again. And it's like, is that losses? A bit of it's losses, but really, like, why is it not 150? So is it the end of the world? No, of course it's not. That's still a really fast charge to charge a car. Of course it is. But no wonder people get confused. Like, just why? I'd just like to know why.
I mean, it's a bit of an issue because people aren't really used to that so much. We do experience that in the gasoline world, or the combustion world. Sometimes you can go up to a pump and it takes like forever for the gas to come out.
Yeah, 6 minutes. Whoa.
Yeah. No, I've been
just joking.
But
you would unplug.
It's like you can watch the thing and it's like just trickling by. Like, it can't. I don't know why it happens sometimes, but you don't get a consistent experience there. But the time is basically a lot shorter anyway, so it's not the same thing with electric vehicles. I think it's more important that the charger puts out exactly what you expect it to put out. It just makes sense.
It might take a little longer
charging.
It might take a little longer, Dominic, as you're saying, but with what we're experiencing, it would be the difference of pulling to a gas station and getting a fire hose filling up your car or a straw. It's like, that's how big of a difference it is. It's not like, instead of being there 5 minutes, I'm there 7 minutes. It's an enormous difference. I mean, I'm in a Taycan yesterday pulling 60 kilowatts at 50% state of charge. Like,
Well, I used to have to fill up 80-gallon tanks, so it would take a while. If the diesel pumps were slow, like sometimes I'd pull up this truck stop I would always stop at. Sometimes they'd be slow, and it was just extend my, be there an extra 15 minutes or whatever, and it's like I'm on the clock. I want to get home. Yeah. Anyway, but we should move on a little bit to the next thing because Kyle, you had a really interesting week this week. So you debuted a number of really awesome videos this week, and one of them, yeah, so I want to hear about the videos that you debuted, and so we're going to do we're going to try to do a special bonus podcast talking about. Okay, tell us about this first video, and maybe we'll get into your hill climb thing. Talk about the hill climb thing a little bit, but first, tell us about the big video.
Yeah, so the big video was Mach-E versus Model Y versus ID4 versus Polestar 2. The idea was electric SUV comparison. The Polestar 2 is kind of the odd one out, but it does actually have a higher ground clearance than Mach-E. So I was like, if that goes, then you're okay. But I really wanted XC40 Recharge. They would have performed pretty much the same in the test, so didn't really matter. Have to thank some friends. So the Mach-E vlog, they're a great YouTube channel and vlog based in Colorado, brought that Mustang Mach-E up for us to use. And so a big thanks to them. McDonald Volvo in Denver. Like we planned this like 6 hours. We planned this at like 2 p.m. on a Saturday and we shot at 8 a.m. on a Sunday. And so we called up our friends at the Volvo dealer and some friends on Twitter got us all connected and it was great. And they just said, yeah, take the Polestar for a little while. So we went down there, picked it up. I had a friend who gave me the Model Y, a view of our channel in Denver. So I did 2 round trips to Denver, back to Fort Collins, just kind of shuffle all the cars up to our shooting location. And yeah, great. We'll talk about, I think, all of the results, the nerdy stuff. But at the end of the day, this is more of a feature option driving dynamics presentation than it is really picking a winner. The winner for me was the ID4. I thought it was the perfect blend of range and comfort and actually driving dynamics. The all-wheel drive gets a totally revised suspension from the rear-wheel drive, stiffer springs, dampers, and sway bars, and also torque vectoring front and rear axle. And when you put it in ESP Sport, you can actually like power on, slide it out of a corner in an ID4. It was so cool. Yeah. And then Model Y was extremely impressive as well. Basically it came down to, like our conversation earlier in this video, a lot of people will only choose the Model Y just for the charging network. All the other specs, features about the cars won't matter at all. Even autopilot for some things, they all kind of have great lane centering on the highway. It's for many people, the Tesla will be the only option and they're going to love their cars. And look, I've been driving Tesla forever. I'm a huge fan, as everyone knows. And I think it's a great car. I wouldn't have let my family buy so many Model Ys and 3s and S's and X's if I didn't think they were great. So, yeah, awesome car there. It was easy to pick the ID4 for me because it was the least annoying, if that makes sense. So it's not like the ID4 does anything excellent, but it's not like the ID4 does anything bad, if that makes sense. So it pretty much was just a car that I probably personally wouldn't buy because for me, I like something a little bit special, a little bit interesting. A little spicy, like if ID4R or GTX came to the US, that's more for me. But it's the car I want like Alyssa to drive, so I would steal it 99% of the time, if that makes sense. Right. For me, it's Taycan, it's Polestar 2, this real special cars I love. But yeah, I would probably, if it was in the garage or the driveway, take the ID4 almost all of the time. And that's what I did for the last week. I drove it everywhere and it was great. And used it for everything and thought it was an amazing car, massaging seats, super quiet ride. Everything was great. So I thought that was a deserved winner of the test for me. But at the end of the test, in the last clip, and then the value, the price is just insane. It was like $7,000 less than the next least expensive competitor. Right. Still qualifying for the $7,500 tax credit and gets 3 years of free charging on EA. And it was the most expensive ID4 you can option aside from a paint color. So really just an insane value right there. And even if you get a base one, even better, I think. So, Tom and I have raved about that car forever. Dominic, you have as well. Yep. And, just a great value on paper and a great, very competent driver. At the end of the day, though, we let everyone choose what they thought, and the Polestar 2 won the majority vote. So really? At the end, everyone, it was between really, our team chose either the Polestar 2 or the Model Y. Some people chose, so Gary chose Model Y for charging. My friend Drew, who runs Martian Wheels, chose Model Y because it's a great performance car with charging and technology. But then the rest of the team all chose Polestar 2 because of the design and the driving dynamics and the Öhlins suspension, and that just because it's a little bit unique. So I really like that about that car as well. No one from our team chose the Mach-E as the winner, but our friends from the Mach-E vlog did. So every car got votes. And the big thing for me is, at the end of the day, we have multiple electric SUV options that you can now compare and make buying decisions off of, which is like new in the electric space. This was not, we couldn't have done this test 2 years ago or 3 years
there
ago.
weren't any. There was only one or a couple. One maybe, I don't know. The
Maybe.
Model Y. When
but
was the
now
Model
there's
Y out?
options.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I watched like at least an hour and something into it. It's like a 2-hour video, so it's long. So you start off with the presentation. There's a little thing on the styling. You go into the battery and sizes and the ranges. Talk about that, and then there's the section on handling and just the performance, basically, where you're sitting there with Drew from Martian Wheels, and you're having a conversation, driving the cars. At this limit. It's great. I love that part. So yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great representation to show how each car drives, and they all drive so differently.
Yeah.
And, Tom, you've driven each one of these cars, as of I previously. None of this was my first time in the cars, but being able to get into one and out of one on the same stretch of road, on the same day, at the same state of charge. I mean, I made sure all the cars were charged up pretty much the same. And it was so impressive to me, the spread of capability. And I think, really, I knew the Polestar was going to be a shredder, and that was the fastest car. I knew the Model Y was competent on a back road, but even with slip start, it lets the back end have rotation in the Model Y. And so really the only problem with Model Y for me is just the steering is a little bit too sharp, a little bit too quick of a ratio. The suspension's great on a back road. It's just you give up so much in daily driving to have such a stiff suspension. Polestar's the same way, but I think that car is a little bit more deserved of the stiff suspension. It's also fully adjustable. Manually, though, you got to put the car up on a lift or a jack to change the suspension, which is kind of cool. I like that. It's like you have to go out of your way to adjust stuff. Neat.
I just feel like a non-performance Model Y should have a bit more softness to it.
Yeah, it's way too. That should be the performance suspension, and then the non-performance should have like ID4 suspension or something nice and comfortable to drive. But most people don't complain about that who buy the cars, and if they're not complaining about it, the target audience, then whatever. I mean, I just think people don't know or care, and that's fine. It's just a me thing that I'm like, oh wow, that's not really designed for its intended use. And, the ID4 was extremely competent on that road. While maybe not the fastest, it had the best, I thought, like, you could just tell the Germans engineered this thing. The way it gets into a corner may not be the stiffest car, but it rolls over on the rear axle. You can come out of corners straight on the wheel. Really nice. And then the Mach-E was just this flamboyant, bright blue machine shredding up a road. So much fun to drive the Mach-E. But even
tires,
things down to... Yeah, I don't know what they're doing with their wheel and tire selection. Thankfully, the Mach-E GT Performance Edition solves every problem I had. And great. Honestly, the Mach-E is a fantastic daily driver. For me, Drew and I had a lot of conversation off camera. I wish we kind of had it on for that too. But getting out of the ID4 and into the Mach-E felt like I got out of sitting in something and then moving to sitting on something. And the Model Y was the same way. It's like you sit up top and you're like looking down. Versus the ID4, I'm in like a cocoon. I have the great driving position, a nice high steering, exactly where I want to be. And Polestar 2, great seating position as well. Sorry to rant. They're all great cars. We'll have a whole episode on that.
Okay. But
the interesting thing, let me add a couple points here. The interesting thing for me on that selection is none of those cars are like I wouldn't recommend to anyone. By meaning they all do something really well, and there's no last place, which is really surprising. Usually in a comparison like this, I'll be like, yeah, but that one car there just like it doesn't do anything well. All of these cars actually excel in like their own niche, and that's really good. They're all really good cars, and I thought about this that it would be hard for me to pick. Really which one I would go with. And it really depends on, what your needs are. You know, if you're
Yeah.
really going to go on frequent long drives, you know, you're probably going to lean towards the Model Y because of the charging network, because it just makes its life so much easier. But if it wasn't for that, let's say all of these vehicles could use the you know, could charge like the Model Y at superchargers, the Model Y might be my last choice. If they all had the same level of charging capability, but they don't. So, you know, the ID4, as we talk about, Kyle, I think it's the best all-around family vehicle. And there was a comment earlier, I think that Martin put up, but we didn't answer it. And somebody said, well, if that's your choice, what's excellent? What's excellent about it? And I think the fact that Kyle, and I agree with him, that there's no one specific thing that we say, well, it's just an excellent road car. It's an excellent this. It's an excellent family car with a value. You know, for the price, what you get, it's a fantastic value, and that's what's excellent. The whole sum of the parts is excellent, not any individual part. And I love the Polestar. The driving dynamics are fantastic. That might actually have been my choice if you really had to put me up against it. But again, the charging, it doesn't charge that well. The charging network is an issue, and the range is like the inefficiency that really bothers me.
Oh,
that
it's so inefficient.
And yeah, that just really bothers me, that it's got like the same size battery as my Model 3, and it can go like 100 miles less. Like that. It's just, that sticks in me. But you know, it'd be a tough choice.
The video, we did a efficiency comparison, and it was 3.1 miles per kilowatt hour in the Polestar, 3.5 for both the Mach-E and the ID4, and then 4.1 in the Model Y. I mean, just smoking everyone. But, you know, at the end of the day, like I said, the ID4 is the car I will recommend to everyone and anyone. People come up to me, Kyle, I want a car. They don't specify it's electric, doesn't matter. Go buy an ID4, and honestly, just get a base one. If you don't want all the frills, you get active lane centering, everything standard in the base car. It's great. But I was actually looking up Polestar 2s after that comparison, like, oh, that would make a pretty good daily driver. Too bad I already have a couple EVs planned to come in the next year and a half or so can't do that. But yeah, really actually was like, oh, that Polestar is one of the best daily drivers if you live in the mountains, which I do.
Right.
I tell you one thing: if Ioniq 5 was already out and you had that in this pack,
I know,
there might
right?
be different. There might be different results.
Totally different. Yeah,
but
this is next year will happen.
Yeah, going to have to do this again with the Ioniq 5, the EV6, and I don't know, there's probably a few more coming. We got to move on, but I did want to talk about your hill climbing challenge a bit, that you just started this little new section of it. You have a new channel that you kicked off with this new video, and you took the ID4 all-wheel drive up a challenging piece of road somewhere in the mountains of Colorado, and I think you're going to revisit this same piece of road with different cars.
Well, we went to go yesterday with another vehicle, and it was closed for the winter. So we are like, oh, might have to put that channel on hold. So that was going to be our 10th channel. Now, the overlanding channel itself isn't going to go away. We're going to produce content. That's why we bought this van. Well, this van's for that channel. We just weren't planning on launching it until next year. But then we all had the bright idea, let's do an off-road challenge that we put all the cars through to launch the channel. And then, yeah, we did two cars, and then the road was closed for the winter. And it was snowing when we were up there yesterday, so I guess it makes sense. We'll find some other things to do. It's not really going to be an EV super-centric channel, but we're going to hopefully put all of the cars through that same test, especially next year. I think it's a really good test. We don't use momentum to get the vehicles up. You got to walk it up. It's got to use the diffs, really kind of crazy section of trail. And at the end of the day, what it does is it'll show if the all-wheel drive system can send the power to the wheels that it's needed to get the car up the hill, and does it have the ground clearance and articulation to make it happen. So it's a tough test. Is it totally scientific? No, but it should make for an interesting watch for 10 minutes a day, you know, every week if we do a test, something like that. And that's kind of the goal, but yeah, that'll be next year.
So at the top, we ran this commercial about or we have a sponsor for a few episodes, I understand, from Holly. They have a new high voltage event coming up, and you mentioned this in your video as well. And so, can you just to give us a couple, like 30 seconds or so, what's going to happen here? Because it sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, so I'm on my way there now. That's why we're going. Drew, who was in this video, is coming too. Jordan, who presented all the design stuff, is a little bit ahead of me. We're all staggered out across I-80, heading out to California right now, and it's going to be a great show. Hopefully, I mean they have it's going to be huge. I mean they have manufacturers there. They have a whole bunch of EV enthusiasts, all centered around Sonoma Raceway, which is one of my favorite tracks. So full road course, autocross, skid pad, charging 40 NEMA 1450s. Hopefully we'll shred some tires. I can't wait to send the Sprinter down the drag strip and lose to everyone. So
They have a website too. What's the URL on that website, Martin?
This is hollyhighvoltage.com.
Awesome. Cool. All right.
But yeah, there's loads of a ton of partners on this as well. And it's and there's going to be some really good channels there. Some bunch of jokers called Out of Spec Motoring are apparently attending. So I'd watch out for them. They sound like chances to me. But apart from that, Alex is going to be there with his channel, and the guys from Rich Rebuilds, Randy Post is there, and it's going to be a fantastic event, and it's this weekend. So
I can't wait.
That's your plans. Anyone that can get to Sonoma this weekend, that is your plans.
Yeah, it's worth the drive. I mean, it's Friday right now. If you're anywhere, Denver or west, you'll make it.
Is there admission to get in to watch this?
No, I think I don't know actually. Probably.
That's a good point. Let me click on tickets. We can find out in real time.
$25 a day.
$25 is fine.
Right.
So
because it's going to be cool. It looks like there's going to be a ton of different cars. EV celebrities. Rich Rebuilds, I think you said is going to be there.
Yeah, Rich is there. Kids go free. Look at that. It's a great day out for the kids. So many kids are really into EVs. More so, I see increasingly that there's something about electric technology that they absolutely love. Even my 3-year-old, who watches a cartoon called Blaze and the Monster Machines, which is all about, big diesel machines. It's on Nickelodeon. They've now introduced a new character called Watts, and she's got electric tires, and he loves her the most because she drives electric, like Daddy's cars are all. So cool. She gets it. Like he's 3 and a half, and he gets it. He's like, "Oh, Daddy, electricity." I'm like, "Yes, son. I'm going to pass the mantle on to you one day. You can have the EV News Daily."
All right.
It'll be the EV News Daily hologram then.
Yeah, right. He can do that in 20 years.
Martin will be sitting on a beach somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So speaking of the hill climb challenge, I was a bit surprised by the results of that. I don't want to give it away. So if you want to look into it, you can look search out of spec overlanding on YouTube.
Oh, for which is this? Oh, the ID4. Yeah, I'm not too worried. Give it away. It's okay. That channel's not monetized. People don't need to go over there yet. So yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed watching the video anyway. Just see it actually happen, and see the Volkswagen ID4 fail to go up the hill, basically because it couldn't get power to the right wheel.
Yeah, it's a great all-wheel drive system. I'm sure in the snow we'll test it, but when you start crawling it up, it just didn't have enough torque vectoring to send the power to the right wheels, and pretty good ground clearance, I have to say though. That 0.6 inches up was better than another SUV we had tested there. So I mean, whatever, it didn't do great, but that's a good baseline for an electric car. Now we don't know if that's good or bad because I've never run another EV up there, so I'd be curious. I bet the Model Y could probably make it up the first half, my impression. And after off-roading it a little bit, it's got pretty good software on it, so we'll see.
Right, yeah. But so speaking of vehicles that should be able to do this pretty well, we'll see. Let's get into some news. So the biggest product news of the week is the debut of the Subaru Solterra. So this was a global debut, and I understand that we may have I think there's a North American debut coming on the 17th. So not everything here may apply to the car that we get in the US. So anyway, as many of you may know, the Solterra is the better named Subaru version of the Toyota BZ4X. That car made its official debut like 2 weeks ago, but I don't think we talked about it much then. But basically, the two vehicles are pretty much identical, save for different styling and light signatures on the front and rear. The interior may have some colorway or possibly some differences in materials. So let's look at some numbers. The Subaru Solterra configurations and the Toyota BZ4Xs for that matter, they all come with a 71.4 kilowatt hour battery. There are two versions of the vehicle. In Japan, at least, you're able to order in a front-wheel drive, and there is, as you would expect, an all-wheel drive version. The front-wheel drive is said to have a range of 329 miles or 530 kilometers on the WLTC Japanese test cycle, which seems very optimistic for a 71.4 kilowatt hour battery. The all-wheel drive version is given as 286 miles or 460 kilometers, and that seems like a pretty large difference, and I assume that it's also a little optimistic. So now this is the thing that caught my attention. The front drive version uses a 150 kilowatt motor, so that's 201 horsepower. Subaru didn't give acceleration numbers, but if it's like the Toyota BZ4X, which is highly likely, it would have a 0 to 62 or 0 to 100 kilometers an hour time of 8.4 seconds on its way up to its 99 mile an hour top speed, which is, not super great. In today's world of, electric SUVs, I think all the ones that Kyle tested earlier were a lot quicker than that. So the all-wheel drive version uses an 80 kilowatt motor on the front and rear axles for a total output of 160 kilowatts or 215 horsepower. The 0 to 60 on that all-wheel drive is probably 7.0 seconds with the same top speed. Now, if I were making this car, well, the two-wheel drive version would have that 150 kilowatt motor on the rear axle, like the VW ID4. Then for the all-wheel drive version, I'd keep the big motor on the rear, and add like maybe a smaller one, like one of those 80 kilowatt units to the front, which again is kind of what Volkswagen did with the ID4. Kyle, any insight into why they would do it this way? Like 280.
No insight. The only thing I can think of is maybe the battery pack has a current limitation that, it's just under designed. So they had to, basically max out the battery pack in both case scenarios. Both. Right. Yeah. And so I don't know. We also don't know how it can sustain 80 kilowatts. We don't know the pack voltage yet, I believe. So
it's 355.
Oh, pretty low. So yeah, it could totally just be a limitation of the electrical system, or it's just they don't want the cars competing with their Subaru STI line, and it's very similar to Toyota's drivetrain. It's identical to the Toyota.
Right.
So, I don't know exactly what the reasoning is, but, as soon as I can get one, I'll ask some engineers and kind of figure out the design targets. From the outside looking in, it's always very easy for me to go, wow, that's pretty dumb. That's, let's just move on. But then occasionally we get a car that, when we start looking at market trends for the people who are actually interested in the car, for the design targets of the vehicle, sometimes we're like, oh, that actually makes sense why it's done this way. At this point in time, I can't figure out why this vehicle has anything like this. I mean, it just all seems, exciting 6 years ago. So I'm not sure. Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, so I kind of agree with Kyle on this one. I want to get a hold of one, want to drive it, want to charge it, want to see where we're at. But it seems pretty, vanilla to me at this point. It seems like it's, I don't want to say compliance, but, I kind of feel like that's the direction that they're going in with this. They had to make an EV, and let's just, clone Tesla's, do a partnership with them, and put this thing out there. It doesn't seem like it pushes any limit. It doesn't seem like they're doing anything unique and exciting. And take a look at, like, this will be a competitor for, say, the Ioniq 5 and the Kia EV6. What excites you about this over those vehicles? Nothing at this point. So, it'd be interesting to see once we get a hold of it. Maybe our opinions will change, but I am completely not excited about this or the BZ4X at all. It just feels like they would have been great vehicles if they came out in 2019. So they're electric. Let's give them a shot. I'll be fair with it, but nothing excites me about any aspect of it.
There's got to be a thing with a Toyota or a Subaru. There's got to be a thing that was worth waiting for. So the fact they're so late to market, they wouldn't say they're late, by the way. They say they're perfectly on time because they don't want to be early to the market. Sorry.
Fast followers, I believe this.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna move this one There we go. He's headbutting the microphone. He's a big lad, that one. Like, there's nothing special about it that excites me yet. So if you're going to be late to market, be really good at one thing. So say, oh, by the way, and here's the factory, and it's going to make 1 million of them a year. Or here's the price, and it's this. Or here's the efficiency. You know, we are late, but we've been working on this in our, you know, mega labs at Toyota, which is what this is, Subaru Toyota. This is going to smash efficiency like Lucid have done. Or anything. Or say, by the way, we held back, but now the solid-state battery technology is there. This uses it might be an 70, 80 kilowatt-hour pack, but it's so light because, or it charges so quickly. What's the thing with this? And all I can see, the thing, once I see it, I can't unsee it, is that black plastic around the wheels. And oh my God,
I know, right?
I just want to slap the person that even suggested it in a meeting before everyone went, oh, that's a very good idea. That's a terrible. Like, there's just no reason. It doesn't follow any lines. It cuts right the way through. Like, it just.
Impact zone. So you see where the rocks are going to hit is where it's painted.
Right, so
like that's what you need the plastic for.
It's not even in the right place. So once you see it, you're like, that looks awful. It's like it's got 2 black eyes or something. It's terrible.
Your dog, I heard you like black plastic cladding around your wheel.
So anyway, look, but again, let's withhold judgment because the thing about the brand, though, the Subaru brand, now that is a brand that has lots of very loyal followers. They won't just buy anything because it's got a Subaru on it, a badge on it, but it has got people who will buy it because it's got some off-road chops, because it's got some great four-wheel drive or soft roading capabilities, or they know they can drive it on the trail, or they live on a farm or something, they're going to do some duties on it, and it's going to be capable. So let's get it in the hands of Tom and Kyle, and let's see how good it is, because it might surprise.
Right. Like Subaru is a big brand in like Vermont, where it's very hilly, and they have like a lot of winter weather, and like
in Colorado, every other car's.
Oh, really? Really?
Oh yeah. Mountain snowy states, man. The Subaru is the car. So this has got to be able to do your hill climb challenge. It's got to be able to put the power to the wheel that's got traction.
100%. It has to. And Subarus in general just haven't been great off-road though. So it's not necessarily, it's the impression, but like if you take a Crosstrek off-roading, it's not great. If you take an Outback off-roading, it's better, but not amazing. So yeah, we'll see. I'm not expecting big things. I hope I'm pleasantly surprised. It's too early for me to make, obviously final judgment on the car, final comment. I'm going to see it next week. So I'm looking forward to spending some time with it. Won't be able to drive it, I don't think, but this and maybe I was going to see the Toyota BZ4X thing, but anyway, same car.
So they're both on show at LA. Is that right? Is that where you're heading off to after High Voltage this weekend? So you're off to the
that's
LA.
why I took the Sprinter, because we're going straight from here down to LA. Porsche has a big week, tons of stuff Taycan related that I can't wait to share with you on next podcast. So yeah, this is tons of stuff going on.
Okay, cool.
I'm going to probably see I'm not going to the LA Auto Show, but I am going to a Toyota event, and I think I'm going to see the BZ4X myself. So I imagine it'll also be at the auto show. It's on display. I mean, it's been debuted, and I'm pretty sure they'll have it on the stand there. So and Toyota has another some sort of reveal coming up too. So we'll be able to talk about that and the LA Auto Show next week. So I'll say something else about that, but I cannot think what it is. All right.
We may have to do the time warp next week again, guys. I'll be in California with Porsche on a first drive
on Friday.
On Friday, yeah. So we might have to do the time warp, and
it'll be like early in the morning, though.
Yeah, I know. I'll make it, and the reason why we'll probably want to do that is because I'm going out to Lucid's headquarters next week on Wednesday, and I'm doing a 0 to 100% charging on the air. Yeah,
I think we just did.
I'm announcing.
I didn't know that. Normally we find out stuff first, but that's
I'm
great.
Announcing it, and so we're gonna do that next week, and just so we probably will want to jump on and do a recording maybe on Wednesday night or something, so that way at least or Thursday, so that way you guys will get that on the podcast next week, because I won't be able to be live. I'm actually going to be in the car driving it next Friday.
Driving the Porsche next Friday. Okay, but the Lucid is earlier in the week.
Lucid's on Wednesday, yeah.
Wow, well that's so cool. Wow,
yeah, should be fun.
Oh well, thank you, Lucid.
Lucid yesterday, by the way.
What's that, Kyle?
Doug DeMuro just did his review. I can't wait for that. that for all the quirks and features. Doug's my favorite.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Wow.
And
Cool.
I'm also going to the annual Charin meeting. They host like an annual meeting around the world every year. This year it's at Lucid's factory in not factory, sorry, their headquarters in Newark. So since I'm going out there, I got an invitation to it. So I'm actually going to the Charin conference for a couple days, and maybe get some DC fast charge info too for the show.
Yeah, that's interesting. What they do is they do like a conference where they get everyone together, and that's the beginning of it. But as the days go on, or the second couple of days or whatever, that is they do like engineering days where maybe the managers, or the marketers will go, but then they actually have the Charin engineering days. I don't know if you're staying for any of those, but they're going to be fascinating, right?
I think I'm going to be in on one of them.
Wow!
Yeah.
So that's really cool, and that's all hosted at Lucid. So that'll be on next week's show.
Awesome. All right. So let's get to the other big news. Actually, Kyle, you're going to leave us. I think you have to leave us.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to talk about one last thing because I just should mention on the podcast. Right before I left, Hyundai dropped off the new electric Kona with the facelift stuff.
Oh,
And
yes. You'll love it.
I forgot how much I loved the Kona.
Really?
I remember
Front-wheel
loving
drive?
it back in the day. No, I don't like really the way it drives, but the features you get and the entire package when you
Right.
factor in the incentives, the pricing, the blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. It's such a pleasant car, and it's so intuitive. It has such little neat features. I put a little video out on it yesterday, and today's a combustion vehicle, so skip over that if you're into electric cars on out-of-spec reviews, but yesterday was an electric car.
My wife
And
loves
the
it.
Kona.
She absolutely loved the new. We
Yeah.
had it. I don't know if your spec names are the same. So it's here. It's called the top level. It's called the ultimate trim, ultimate spec.
That's what it used to be. Now it's the limited. I don't
Oh,
remember.
okay. But yeah, like my wife fell in love with that. If we had another 15 grand in the business account, we would have bought that, not the MG. But beggars can't be choosers. She really loves that just because she felt like it was a great car. Like the leather seats, the sunroof, everything was electric and heated and cooled, and the hot air, the cool air through the seats. And she just felt like it was a level of luxury which suited her. Like not too nice, not too utility. So I think, and that's the one with the facelift that I can't believe we
good
got
in the
that car
facelift.
first before you guys, but maybe we did.
We can't even get them in the U.S. There was like 6 that came to Colorado, and
that's
they're all
rubbish.
over sticker now. So like it used to be the value play. Now I'm not so sure it makes sense to buy a new one. But I even said that in the video. I'm like, I could say anything about this car. It's not going to affect your buying decision because you can't get one. There's none available.
It's annoying.
So great car. I think I'd have an ID4 over it personally, but like, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
Scott says
burn
it
out.
does. It does. It will break traction at 30 miles an hour. It's great.
It's a
If you-
little dangerous in the way.
yeah, if you floor it, yeah.
Sounds like the Spark.
Yeah.
Crazy torque steer. Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
to take somebody in my Spark this week.
And really poor legroom. Somebody pointed that out. And,
Robert
the
there.
rear
There's
legroom
nothing
is
behind the front seats.
Yeah,
It's terrible.
I actually,
Yeah.
before I got my first Model 3 in 2019, I was going to get the Kona. And until I really got one sat in it, put my seat where I would normally have it, and then I'm looking in the back. I'm not tall. I'm only 5'8", and there was no legroom with me putting my seat where I drive it. And I shuffle my parents around on occasion, and I'm like, I can't put them back there. So that was a non-starter for me.
Yeah, you know what I wish we would get, though? I wish we would get the new Soul EV. Accuse me of being weird, but I like the new Soul. I think that thing looks good in green with a white roof. And
Don't you get that?
No, we don't get the electric Soul. We only get the combustion ones. But we get the Nero and the Kona, which is the same car underneath. So let us get the electric Soul here, please. I was
We don't
so
get the
excited
Soul?
for that car.
I
We-
thought-
we
oh
don't
no!
have
Right,
not the
it
second
was supposed to come.
generation.
It was supposed to come, and then it
was-
didn't come.
It was gonna, then they delayed, and finally they're like, yeah, we're not going to bring that.
Right.
Big battery, 64 kilowatt hour battery, nice fast charging at like late 70s kilowatt speed, and a good value play as well. Like, and because not everybody wants one, you look a bit. If you want to look different when you're driving it, not everyone does. It's a bit special.
I like the way they look.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, look, people make fun of me all the time, but I see like these new ones in this like army green color with the white roof, and I'm like,
Oh, nice.
"Damn,
Yeah,
that is
I mean,
a good looking car."
they sell tens of thousands of them for a reason, right? Of the combustion version.
But even the
Usually
first
'cause they
gen,
approve anyone. I
it
mean,
wasn't
yeah.
available everywhere. It was only available in ZEV states.
Right.
The first gen.
Right.
Oh.
You know, they even limited it then, so that was kind of foretelling. Listen, hopefully they're just all in on the EV6, and that just means that they want to put the weight of the brand behind that and really push that out.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, don't bring it because Ioniq 5 and EV6 are going to smash everything. But the efficiency of Ioniq 5 and EV6 don't seem nearly as good as these cars, which these are combustion vehicles adapted to be electric, and that's a ground-up EV. And these things smoke them in efficiency.
But these have smaller batteries, and they're not
by much.
Not by much. And I'd like to. I want to have that conversation at one point. Not for now. But why are the new Kias and Hyundais so much worse? Because you want to move forward, right? In EV world, everything is moving forward. Battery tech is getting better and cheaper. Everything is getting, and then these new cars come out, and with the Kona, especially the new Kona as well, it's witchcraft. You can literally drive it on the motorway at 70 miles an hour. You're doing 4 point something miles per kilowatt hour, and you're like, I'm not even trying, right? Air conditioning's on. It's cold. It's witchcraft. So, but why are there new cars? Not a conversation for now. I've thought about it for ages. Same as Kyle.
So let's talk about since we're talking about Kia, let's talk about something else from them right after we say goodbye to Kyle and maybe hear from our good friends at Electrify America again.
Yeah, like we could say goodbye, and then when he come back, he's not here. Oh,
yeah.
Bob.
I'm sorry.
That's probably good. See you. Thanks for having me.
The Inside EVs podcast is brought to you this week with the help of Electrify America. And with their help, you can drive your EV from coast to coast. With more than 650 charging stations nationwide and new locations opening every week, Electrify America is bringing EV drivers the freedom that they need. Maybe you're planning a weekend getaway, off to see friends or relatives, or just going about your day-to-day life. You can rely on Electrify America's ultra-fast chargers to get you back on the road, and fast. So, here's the question. Where will you go on Electrify America? Let us know because we'd love to hear about your road trips. And you can learn more at electrifyamerica.com. And the Inside EVs podcast this week also brought to you with Holly. Holly Performance Company. This weekend, the 13th and 14th of November, is inviting all EVs to the inaugural High Voltage Experience. They're doing it at the Sonoma Raceway in California. It's going to be the playground for EV owners, for drivers and enthusiasts alike, offering multiple high-performance driving events, including autocross, road course, drag racing, and a unique 3S challenge. You can get all the event details you need at hollyhighvoltage.com. That's HOLLEY highvoltage.com, and we'll see you there.
All right.
He's
I was just
gone.
actually on our Twitch channel. We have a viewer leaving some comments there, and we haven't had a whole lot of action on our Twitch Twitch channel yet. And yeah, it's just great to see that. All right, so let's talk about something from Kia coming up. So it was expected that the Kia EV9 would debut yesterday, but instead we learned that it's going to officially debut at the LA Auto Show on the 17th. That's next week. So Kia did, however, drop some pretty good teasers that I think were worth taking a look at. I mean, that's even more than teaser. That's kind of it, right?
Yeah.
On the video, that's on the screen. If you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch, you can kind of get a good idea of what this concept vehicle is going to look like. And usually it would be like EV9 concept, but this was the Concept EV9. But anyway, so this will be the brand's flagship electric SUV. So it's a big deal and also physically large. I personally find that it's odd that it's got some like hard geometric creases like the Hyundai Ioniq 5, and it seems more in line with that design language than the Kia EV6. But maybe Tom can tell me why I'm wrong. I do like the interior, very clean with the one-spoke steering wheel. I don't know, Tom, what do you think of this?
So the crazy thing is, as we're looking at this, that's exactly what I'm thinking. Like,
Right.
This kind of looks like a follow-up to the Ioniq 5, not the EV6. And then you go and say it, and then you're like, well, now Tom will tell me why I'm wrong.
I totally agree.
Exactly. And it was going through my mind exactly. I'm kind of looking at it. I'm like, wow, that really looks like the evolution of the Ioniq 5.
Right.
So, it really does more so than the EV6. The EV6 really has, those more swooping lines than the angular, triangular kind of look of the Ioniq 5.
Right.
It certainly doesn't surprise me. Their SUVs, their gasoline Kia SUVs are, huge sellers. You would expect them to do a fully electric, full-size SUV soon. And it's good that they're doing it now and not holding off, I think. I think the brands that electrify all the different segments in their fleet as soon as possible are going to be the ones that are market leaders. And I really think Kia and Hyundai are really in that position now to be electric vehicle leaders, like Volkswagen is at this point. I think Kia and Hyundai are going to surprise a lot of people in the next few years. They're going to emerge as one of the biggest electric vehicle brands globally.
I think good things and bad things with that, right? So the good thing is EGMP platform. They've got their platform. I think it's future-proof, being 800 volt, and their battery supply seems to be pretty good. They're talking now about those South Korean companies, which always shunned LFP, lithium iron phosphate technology, now following CATL into that. So they're looking at, it's not ready yet, but they're looking at doing that in prismatic form, which are like the little block batteries. So I think that's good. I'm looking forward to the future. That platform can take everything from a small city car to these large SUVs, whereas VW feels like they kind of got there with MEB platform and then realized they wanted to shift their suppliers from the South Korean to the Chinese makers, and there's a new platform coming middle of the decade, and MEB goes, and it feels like VW just did that one extra step and they're not there yet. So I think they're future-proofed. But then, I don't know, what I'm not so sure about is their production capability. So it's great that they've got the platform, they can put the various vehicles onto it, but I love talking about these cars, but the big unknown is how many of them are there going to be in the world? And like, just a reminder when you guys say, oh no, we don't get the Soul EV, and oh, the Kona just arrived and that's been over here a year, and you think, man, it's like the North American market. Whenever I look at those share figures, it's just your whole market is Tesla, and it's so different to over here. And I just really want that production to open up. And I know that you can't wave a magic wand, and you've got to build factories, and that investment is enormous. But man, I just want them to turn that tap on, and for you guys to get all of these vehicles, so that you walk into a Hyundai dealership and you've got like, oh, which one do you want? The Ioniq 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Which one? And like they're all there, and it'll be, oh, by the way, 12-week wait, and we'll get you a new car. So, or even there's one in stock. Ideal. But man, that's the downside. I just don't know. Lots of announcements. I don't know when these cars come in volume.
Pretty soon here in the U.S., and next year I believe they're going to be sold in all the states. Up until now, you could only buy the Kona, or I think some of the Kias in certain states, right, Tom?
Yeah, I think they might have eventually opened the Kona up nationwide, I think, but it was definitely that way. And maybe you're right. I know when they first launched it was in a few states, then they expanded it, and I know the plan, or at least I thought the plan was to go nationwide with it, but that might have changed. They might not have ever actually went nationwide with it. I hadn't been following it that closely. But yeah, they're famous, just like the Soul with Kia, for really focusing on ZEV states with their EVs and not doing national rollouts.
Right.
I might be speaking too soon. I know that the Alabama plant is retooling and getting ready to make the Genesis cars, a GV60 or GV70 electric,
60,
one of them.
I believe. Mm-hmm.
Right, okay. So they'll come out, so they're going to be made on home soil. Obviously, one incentive package agreed last Saturday, then the Build Back Better stuff coming, and we think, and so that will be the new tax credits. And so again, getting some more incentives for those cars built in the US. Even the battery packs built, I understand that's still $500 for the US assembled battery packs as another little incentive. So we just need these cars to get into market quicker than I think they are.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe next year the floodgates, because this year the floodgates open to an extent in Europe because of the CO2 fines. So maybe next year in the US, right. I'll look over the water and I'll just see you guys with a ton of choice, and that's what I really want.
I mean, the Hyundais and the Kias, they're coming here next year. It's just a matter of can people build them fast enough, because
how many are you going to get?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say. Like, no one can seem to build enough cars to supply the market right now, and the prices. Tesla raised. We said this last week, and a few weeks before. I mean, over the past few weeks, the prices on some Teslas have gone up again this week. I think by $1,000 in the Model Y or something. Again.
So I don't know.
And now the inventory, like it's the waters are muddied by the global supply chain issues.
Yeah,
Like, is
right.
it do we not have cars because the manufacturers don't want to send them here, which was the case before? Why Hyundai and Kia didn't send a lot of their EVs here, or is it the fact that they just can't build enough, and the ones they're building, they're sending them to markets that they know they're going to sell, rather than unproven middle America non-ZEV states here in the U.S. where they're still concerned whether or not they're going to sit on lots, which is, I understand that. It's a legitimate question. The demand isn't enormous in some areas of the country, and that's the reason why infrastructure hasn't really been built out in those areas, because the companies that have to get these hundreds of thousands of dollars into the ground are saying, well, there's no EVs here, they're not even for sale. There's only a couple thousand of them registered in half the state. So why am I going to put a $500,000 DC fast charge site in? It's a cycle of the cars aren't there, so the infrastructure isn't there. This all's going to take time. I see we had a comment that someone said that the Kona still isn't available in Illinois. Okay, I didn't know that. I thought maybe Hyundai had eventually done the rollout. Dom was right on that. They still didn't do a national rollout on the
Right.
Kona EV.
Right.
Yeah,
In
that's
Florida,
not
you
good
can't
enough.
get it. We have a few. So Kona is like a third biggest owners group, I believe, on the Inside EVs forum. And we do have a few owners from Florida, but they had to buy it from like out of state and bring it down here. However, have it delivered or drive up and drive it back. Right.
Yeah.
So, hey, Martin, can you go back to the Kia EV9 and just scroll down and bring up the gallery there?
Yeah, of course. So if I go down and bring up we've put a gallery up. Okay, let me click those 5 photos.
Yeah.
Ace. Oh, wow. Okay,
I just wanted to show off. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what I
so
was looking
very
at.
angular. For our audio listeners listening on the podcast, if we're in your ears, yeah, very, very angular. Look, not Cybertruck angular, but I would say not far off. Now, it's a concept car. It's got no wing mirrors. It'll have cameras, I guess, in the markets that they can allow. But yeah, that is pretty kind of Tron-like.
Right.
That's pretty futuristic.
Look at those Subaru taillights. Like
Let me go back. So, yeah, I don't know. You're right. It doesn't look like a Kia, but it looks like an Arctic.
Well, it kind of reminds me of, it's like a stylized Soul taillight almost. It's just like vertical and thin, but it has it kind of kinks in the middle there.
It's like a big soul. Now you say that,
Yeah.
but again, the design of it seems pretty conventional for the big SUV market. We don't really have that market here. We have Range Rovers and stuff, and but we don't really have that size of SUV market where the cars are crazy big, and it does seem like, I don't know, they've got a platform here that doesn't need the big hood out front. I guess it's not as big as it would be if it was combustion, so I guess it's a bit shorter.
It's probably going to have a wheelbase like I think one of the other vehicles on the eGMP platform has a 3,000 millimeter, so that's 9.
Ioniq 5 is 3 meter. Yeah, Kia EV6 is 2.9 meters, and the Ioniq 5 is 3 meters
Which
wheelbase.
is as big as the largest SUV, I think, the Hyundai Palisade. So this is the equivalent to that on the Kia side. Slips my mind. Darn it. A large Kia SUV anyway. This should have at least as much space on the interior as that one.
Yeah.
And it'll probably have like more ride height, but it's a big chunky SUV, and I really like that interior shot too. It's got the one spoke steering wheel and a very kind of clean design inside. There's not a whole lot of buttons and
Is that a flat bottom steering wheel as well?
Yeah, I mean, this is the concept. So
a concept car.
the actual production version is going to be a little more conventional, I believe. But I mean,
hey, like Ioniq 5, very, very close. That
Right.
Project 45 car, very, very close to the
Right.
the pony car concept we saw. So yeah, cool.
anyway, yeah, lots to look forward to there, and we're going to see that next week, and we can talk about it more then. I don't know, Tom, do you have anything more that you wanted to say about this?
No, I think my first impression was like a modern Tron version of a Ford Flex. Remember that? I don't know, just that boxy, the way the top was. I mean, I know that's maybe a little bit of a stretch, but I was trying to think, what does this remind me of? And I was thinking of the Ford Flex with like that kind of square hood and then big boxy rear section.
It kind of puts me in mind of the BMW iX. It doesn't look like the BMW iX, but it's a big chunky blocky thing like that as well.
Yeah, I don't get. I know what you're saying, but I don't see when
they don't look
at
alike.
those, not at all. Yeah.
They don't look alike at all, but they're both like big chunky boxy things. Anyway, So let's talk about something else real quick. Our time's ticking down. So Rivian is now a public company. It launched its initial public offering the other day, and I think it's fair to say it was a success. It's the biggest IPO since Facebook in 2012. So the original offer price was $78 a share, but early investors saw that as undervalued, and the stock actually opened at $106.75 around 1 o'clock Eastern in the afternoon. Early enthusiasm pushed the price up to $119.46, but on the first day, things then settled down slightly, and by the end of trading, it fell into a mere $100.73 a share. So that leaves the company's market capitalization at $98.663 billion on the very first day, which is way above what we expected. We were talking about $80 billion and how that was way too much because that's like more than Ford or GM. And then yesterday's trading saw it move back up to $122. I haven't had a chance to look at it today. $122.99. So that seems quite optimistic for a company that just started delivering vehicles. But stocks are all about future expectations. I certainly hope Rivian can live up to this valuation. So speaking of the future, real quick, apparently CEO RJ Scaringe, who is now on paper at least a multi-billionaire. Says the company has to grow quickly and hit a production rate of 1 million vehicles a year by 2030, and that's where Tesla is today. We just saw it on the screen. Martin just showed it on the screen if you're watching us on Twitch or YouTube. It's $129 trading that right now, which is, man, those people, the owners, I guess there's a high percentage of owners bought shares at the strike price at the $70 they got in somehow, and they're they're making out like bandits. At least on paper.
Yeah. But there are. Go ahead.
The interesting thing about that is they're supposed to send invitations to people who are reservation holders so that you could buy, and they never sent me one. And I'm a reservation holder. I wouldn't have bought it because I don't hold positions in any of the companies.
Same.
But the interesting thing is I didn't get one. And I was a reservation holder before the deadline. There was a deadline you had to reserve before this date, and I reserved mine like 10 days or something before the cutoff date. So I actually pinged when I was talking to a contact there about something else. I was like, hey, was I supposed to get an invitation to buy the stock? I'm not going to, but just so you know, I didn't. And they just were like, look, that's got nothing to do with what we do. Reach out to X, Y, and Z. And I never followed up on it because I couldn't. I did. Someone said check your spam folder. I did check my spam folder. I didn't receive it. But as I said, I wouldn't have bought it because I don't hold positions in the car companies.
Right. So
there are some car companies in the world still bigger than Rivian, in case you were wondering, and that would be Tesla, Toyota, Daimler, and Volkswagen Group. So in case you're wondering, yes, they haven't actually made any vehicles yet, apart from I think the 56 hand-built ones, 186 hand-built ones, and then a bunch of pre-production stuff that was built by Ford anyway, or a subsidiary of Ford. And but there are some car companies still bigger than Rivian. Only 4, I believe, in the world, and that obviously includes Tesla, but the likes of Daimler and Toyota and Volkswagen Group. The rest, GM, Ford. Ha! Who are you? I find it mad. By the way, I've reached out to a friend of mine who. I used to work with him. He's now a partner at a financial firm. And I'm going to do an episode of my podcast on the markets because I stay away from this on my coverage of EVs intentionally. Because then the minute you get into, there's so many like pro stock ticker, and they all do like really well. But of course, if you own Tesla shares, you're going to make a Tesla show about how amazing they are. And it just seems so disconnected from any kind of reality, and I need to understand like what is the market at the minute. I know that there's a huge amount of money being pumped into the system by either central governments or support or things like that, but how, in my head, this is madness, but financial people say no, this is okay, like they're building in future value to Rivian. Well, they don't make anything, and like all they've got is an order from Amazon and a few customers.
Right.
So I don't understand. I need to educate myself massively on, like, understand the madness.
Okay, so the long-term plan is for 4 factories, so 2 in the U.S., and we can imagine 1 in Europe. And
yeah, I want 4 houses, Dom. Like, my long-term plan is to have 4 houses. I think probably 1 on every continent. If I possibly can, maybe a couple in Malibu, just for the sake of it.
Do you have a business plan to make that
happen? Yes, this podcast. And I've got a lot of pre-orders. Like I understand it. Like you can say you're going to do what you want. Like, oh, we're going to build this. It's going to be amazing. I have 1 million cars by 2030. Well, that's nice. I mean, Tesla will do 900,000 cars this year.
I do think it's optimistic. But so I got a little bit more about this. So I just want to say real quick. It's all right. And we'll talk about how this is kind of madness. But that's kind of where we are right now in the markets around electric vehicles and batteries and things. I mean, it had calmed down a little bit, but Rivian has had now they debuted in 2 years ago at the LA Auto Show, so they've had some time to hit targets, to do what they said they were going to do, and they're a little late coming. They're a little behind their original plans, but they have like a really well-received product there that's fresh technology. Other people don't have. It's got some unique things going on, but so I think it's time to hear more about the company's product plan as well. The company recently launched itself into the big time with a successful product reveal at the 2019 LA Auto Show. So they're supposed to eventually have a bunch more vehicles in their lineup, and a while back it said its next one would be like a rally type car with bananas level of performance. So I'm wondering if they're going to surprise us next week with something. It's time to show us. Okay, so they got this crazy valuation. What else do you have besides this pickup truck and the SUV based on the pickup truck? We need a high volume. We need some volumes now. We got this these flagship vehicles. I don't know, Tom. Are you expecting to see anything next week?
Not really, to be honest with you. I think that they've got their hands full focusing on keeping Bezos quiet and pumping out his vans and
right.
But they
got 9,000 employees, and only 3,000 of them are in Normal, Illinois. So they got people around to build stuff somewhere, right? Yeah,
I mean, well, what would you expect? I mean, their image is adventure vehicles.
Right.
I wouldn't expect to see the $25,000 Lucid commuter car, Rivian commuter car.
Right.
I wouldn't expect to see something like that. The next vehicle I would expect to see is some sort of a passenger van, family, type minivan type thing. If anything, almost something
really?
Like the I would think they would do something along the lines of the VW bus, like something like that, smaller than the R1S, like a family hauling thing, rather than an affordable entry level market like Tesla's trying to bring the $25,000 car to market. I think they have to use the platform that they're using, so that it wouldn't be necessarily a small car. I mean, what's your thoughts on it? I don't think we're going to see anything.
So I'm holding them to the original things from like a year ago, where they said a rally style car with bananas level performance. So I want to see like something a little larger than the WRX, Subaru WRX hatch, with a good road but legit off-road capability for adventuring and crazy performance. I mean, that's kind of what I expect.
And
in a different platform in LA. That's okay. Next week. That's maybe I have high expectations. I don't know. Martin, you expect to see anything next week?
I hope we don't. Okay. I hope we see them. Because I don't hold the stock, and I don't care if their valuation is 1 billion or 100 billion. What I would love to hear from them, which is today is day one. Like, today is day zero. Now the hard work begins, because we've actually got to ship. And not only have we got to ship 100,000 Amazon vans, but they're talking about their director of comms, I forget her name, Amy someone, tweeted out. Yeah, right. Tweeted out a link this week to their new fleet page, and so you can, if you're a fleet, you can start ordering the fleets from early 22 that get delivered early 2023. And again, people got confused because Amazon have an exclusivity on the Amazon van, or specifically all the SEC filings pointed towards Amazon having a right of refusal on last mile delivery. But that doesn't mean that Rivian can't also make a truck or a commercial vehicle, right, that's not the Amazon van. And so they're talking about, hey, opening it for fleet services, end-to-end services, looking after charging, looking after the data and telematics and all that kind of stuff. I just want to see them make some trucks. Make the R1T. Get it into... I want to see an R1T in Tom's driveway and 10,000 more.
Well,
And then if you look at another company, like there's the UK-based company, also in the US as well, called Arrival this week. They had their Q3 results. And at the end of their results, they also said, oh, and by the way, the numbers that we said pre the SPAC deal earlier this year, the numbers that we said that we could do, we're not quite there yet. Here are the revised numbers. Like it fell 25% overnight when those numbers came out, because the market doesn't like to hear people talking realistically about what they think they can do. So I think what obviously if you own shares in Rivian now, what you want is for them to come out and go, yeah, we're going to have loads of fleet vehicles and a sports car and a minivan, and we're going to make... And what I want to hear is for them to say, right, we're making the vehicles, we're doing the hard yards, we're working really hard to get them into customers' hands. But because I don't think we're going to see many. We won't see any this year. Like they took out 1,000, which is nothing. And I think we'll see many next year. I think it's all going to be the focus on Amazon, because that's the guaranteed revenue. And that's the guaranteed money coming through the door for the Amazon vans. But that's not the way it works if you're trying to, build, and get more money in the door.
But that has been RJ's MO, Martin. Like he does kind of, he's not the Elon Musk, the Trevor Milton that's going out there talking about how amazing the company is and we're going to be doing this and we're going to be doing that.
No,
he's been low keyed. He's been saying, look, we're focused on doing what we're doing, and we're not going to get in front of ourselves. So like, I don't expect Rivian to come out with we're doing this, we're doing that, and all that. I think I think if they hold true to what got them to where they are, it's not going to be overpromising. But let's see.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Now look, I just correct me. Just if I'm wrong about something, just correct me. Now, DB, you hold stock. It's why I don't hold any positions in car makers, because it clouds what you're thinking. Yeah. So if I'm wrong, just tell me I'm wrong, and I'll correct myself. So it needs to ramp up and work on cost control. But I don't know. If I'm wrong about something, tell me I'm wrong. But specifically, like what I don't know about the company, because there must be gaps.
Right. It sounds like he was agreeing with a lot of what you're saying, but
and I agree with Tom. It's not RJ that's going out there on Twitter. It was the comms team, right, that put this stuff like, "Hey, we're going to be a big fleet thing." So he's not pumping it, but the company is.
Actually, and I misspoke earlier. It's Amy Mast.
Yes,
not Amy
yes.
West.
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to also mention that. So the R1S, that's the SUV version of this vehicle on the same platform. That's going to start being built by the end of December. So yeah, not too long in the future. Like I had mentioned, I kind of expected to see a little sooner, but end of December, that's fine, and that'll be that. And actually thinking about it, they could introduce a vehicle, show it off this year at the LA Auto Show. But they're not going to build it, at the Illinois factory. They're going to, I would say that. So we were talking about them building a huge new factory in the southwest, and so I would expect that new factory is where they will build that. So if that takes a year and a half, 2 years to build that factory, which is I think plenty of time now. Things have to move fast.
Well, they've got the money.
This new vehicle will be. And so, the timing of when they show that vehicle, I mean, that's up to them. It could be next week or it could be 6 months from now. I wouldn't wait till past next summer to do it, but yeah, I guess we'll see.
But now they've got the cash. They always had access. They always had access to money, but now that's not even anything to think that they can absolutely
$8 billion.
Like
they
invest
need that
in
to build a factory.
Whatever they want. And again, people don't understand like how capital intensive building these factories and people, and making payroll every month. Like all these things are covered off now that they've raised this money, so they can do whatever they want.
They got 50-some thousand vehicles to make besides the Amazon van thing. So.
Yeah. Oh, but they're burning through money very quickly.
Right. So they need to get those things made to bring in that revenue to help balance things up a bit, because you can't just burn money forever.
Yeah.
You can't.
I'd almost be concerned if we hear exciting new news about new vehicles, because that means I'm not saying it means, it could mean that they're covering over production problems or things like that. Right now, what I want to hear from them is we're ramping up productions. These R1Ts are rolling off the line. R1Ss are going to start in 2 months. If that's all happening, and we've got videos of the trucks filling up parking lots, getting ready to ship out to customers, they don't need to announce anything new at this point. It's kind of like Tesla always did that. Like
Right.
it always seemed that way to me. That whenever Elon showed off the shiny new object, the robots and everything that all this shiny new stuff, it was because people were starting to say like how come we haven't heard about the Cybertruck? We're supposed to get that. You tweeted about that a month ago that we were going to see the final version in a week. How about FSD? You're supposed to release that 8 tweets ago, and we're supposed to do cross country autonomous driving, by the end of the year in 2017. So, and they always came out with some new flashy thing. Now we're going to do this. Look over here. Look over there. So I'm kind of like a little shell shocked from that, and I feel like if we start getting that from Rivian, like look at this next car we're going to make, and look at this, that's going to bring up red flags for me. Now it could just be me, but I want to just hear. Look at this production. Look at these trucks rolling off the line, and like I said, car carriers loaded with R1Ts going out all over the country. Amazon vans, getting delivered. That's the news I want to hear from Rivian.
Right. And videos of happy owners doing crazy stuff with their vehicles. Or,
That's what you want.
Exciting stuff, yeah. Which we've already seen.
And me.
A little
I
bit
want to see my R1T in my driveway.
Yeah, I want to see one in Tom's driveway.
That's right. With a big snowplow in the front of it.
Yeah.
All right. So I just wanted to mention this before we go. Electrify America is their sponsor, but I saw this yesterday and I thought it was great. No one suggested that I talk about it or anything, but I just wanted to. So Electrify America just opened its 200th California location, and it's a more premium experience, and I think it's worth showing off. It's located at the Westfield Valley Fair. I believe that's a mall in Santa Clara, and it has 14 fast chargers from 150 to 350 kilowatts, like most of the locations. But this one has a solar canopy, and it also has a battery energy storage system involved. So it's right by the shopping center. So they also have an arrangement with some select restaurants and things inside where they have optional curbside food purchase and delivery. So you don't have to, leave your vehicle and go chase things down. They've made arrangements for them to come to you, and I think that's really great. This is something I think we need to see more of, like coordination between charging networks and the businesses near those locations that can cater to the people using the stations. I think I don't know how it works revenue-wise, if there's any kind of revenue sharing or anything, but there is coordination, and I think that's a really positive thing. I don't know. Y'all have thoughts on this?
Well, there's revenue. And like if someone sat at a charging station for 20 minutes, half an hour, there's money to be made somewhere.
Right.
So the fact, exactly like you say, just integrating this into the area that it's in, rather than we had a parking lot, and they had some space over there, so put some chargers there. And then like that, because that ticks that box, it's fully integrating it into. So GridServe over here have opened up one site in Braintree. It's the one with 30, I'm going to get it wrong, 34 or 36 chargers. But it's great. It's somewhere that you can stop. There's a lounge, there's shops. They've built the whole facility so that it's just a nice experience for EV drivers. Now, I don't mind walking a couple of 100 meters to get inside the shop, but I must admit, like if you want to just stop for 20 minutes and maybe my little one's asleep in his car seat and I think, I'm going to pull in and charge while he sleeps, if someone can bring me some takeaway to my window, stuff like that, you will spend more money than you would have done otherwise. So why this hasn't been done already by more places, I don't know. But hey, Tom, you've got a couple of chargers at one of at your property. Maybe at the weekends you can put on an apron and start taking people their food
Pizza.
to their window.
Yeah, so did that for 30 years. You couldn't pay me to get back in the food industry again.
Come on.
There's not enough money, You couldn't give me a boatload of Rivian stock to get me back into that. But in any event, I always thought that was going to be the business model because I don't see people making money on electricity. And I always thought there had to be some sort of ancillary revenue stream on site. And, if you notice in most of the DC fast charge, like Electrify America, Tesla supercharger sites, most of them are located where there is already existing food and services. The convenience stores now are getting in the game. That's a great model, if you ask me. Like the in here in northern New Jersey, we have Quick Checks, we have Wawas. Those are the big. I know there's Come and Go, and there's Murphy's. There's different chains out there that are installing Royal Farms, DC fast charging. That's a great model for me. So this is kind of like taking it the other way, putting the charging in and then doing the food, adding that on, as opposed to having the brick and mortar already there and then putting the charging where the food is. So yeah, I think it's a great model. Look, we always made money on the charging stations I had in my parking lot when I operated the restaurant, because I had kind of a captured customer. They were there on the site, and they could just go walk around for a while or so, but they definitely would prefer to sit down, grab a slice of pizza, have a cup of coffee, make a little bit of money off of them that way. So yeah, I think that's definitely a business model. And I want to jump off to, before I forget, because my mind wanders really quickly. Did you guys see Nissan advertising that we can order directly from their website like Tesla? I wonder how their dealers feel about that. There's a comment, Martin, a little bit up the stream by M. Yeah, you got it there. So they can't sell directly to customers. So there are companies that do allow you to put orders. Like when I did my pre-order for the F-150 Lightning, it was through Ford's website. I had to select a dealer. It's illegal in the U.S. for a manufacturer to sell you a car. So I haven't gone to the Nissan site to take a look at this, but I am certain Nissan isn't selling you the car. They must have some kind of a conduit system where they're accepting your order and then funneling it to a dealership. I don't even think they can set a price and say, okay, here's the price, unless Nissan made some sort of a deal with their entire dealer network and allowed MSRP pricing, like a one set pricing, which I haven't heard about that yet. I'd be surprised if that was the case. I think this is just some sort of a pre-order online that they're the conduit between you and a dealership, because the dealership has to be the one that sells you the car, and an OEM cannot.
So that's the asterisk, exactly like you say, Tom. Available at participant. This is the Nissan USA site. Yeah. I'm not on Nissan UK, and so that it is connected to dealers in some way.
It has to be. Right. Yeah. It's illegal for Nissan to sell you a car directly.
Right.
I haven't read it all, but there you go. That's the Nissan site. You can go check it out.
Yeah, well, I'll take a look at that later, and if there's anything unusual there, we'll talk about it next week on the podcast. But I expect it just to be some sort of a link where you can buy the car at a dealer.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, we're way over time, so we need to wrap this up. So that brings us to the end of our show. Thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate our audience. We love you guys. Thank you for spending your time with us this morning. If you have any questions or comments, you can leave them on the Inside EV's forum podcast thread or on our YouTube or Twitch comment sections. If you like the show, please give us a thumbs up. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can also find and follow our panelists on Twitter. Follow Tom Mologney at Tomolog, that's with 2 M's. Martin Lee is at EV News Daily. Kyle Connor is at It's Kyle Connor. And I'm at Dominic_Y. Please subscribe and tap that bell icon for notifications to help other people find us. And we'll see you all again next week. Ciao.